All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hello, Dr. Jenny.
It's so good to see you.
Me too. All right. So you're welcome to Emerge Africa 2020. Um, okay. You're welcome to Emerge Africa 2020. I'm excited. So let's begin about Accelerate Hub. This program is an event by Accelerate Hub. So Accelerate Hub is a tech innovation hub in River State University, Nigeria. What we do tech entrepreneurship, student development in the area of tech entrepreneurship, community building, and we are located in Port Harcourt. So, if you want to know more about Accelerate Hub, there a link will be shared to you. Now, let me share my screen. All right. So, this program is brought to you by Accelerate Hub, and these are our channels. We have our website acceleratehubng.com, our mail hello@acceleratehub, our Facebook and Twitter, both LinkedIn handle, it's Accelerate Hub NG. So our address, Advancement and Linkages Center, River State University, Port Harcourt, Nigeria. So Emerge Africa. What is Emerge Africa? What are we going to be talking about today? Well, basically, looking at the trends and huge culture shifts in technology and the fast rise of technology after COVID, we Accelerate Hub, a tech community here in River State University, Port Harcourt, Nigeria, is having this particular event to enlighten and to point out the reasons why students, why individuals, why parents need to be involved in technology and tech communities also. Now, also, we want to emphasize on the fact that education is not just a stepping stone, but student needs to be engaged in its tech skill to build a better life and also to have more options and better opportunities after tertiary education. Now, what are we going to be discussing today? Now, there are four basic points. The first one is the role of technology in education. We have building a sustainable future with technology. We have the role of technology in empowering the African child. And we have technology as a tool to revolutionize Africa's education system. Now, our speakers, we have our first speaker, Dr. Jenny Grant Rankin. Now, about Dr. Jenny Grant Rankin, Dr. Jenny is a Fulbright specialist for the U.S. Department of State who has taught at University of Cambridge as a lecturer for postdoc masterclass, the American Educational Research Association annual meeting, and other venues. She has 2 doctorates in education, a PhD and an LHD, and a long history at serving at every level in public education, from classroom teacher to chief education and research officer. She has delivered approximately 200 keynotes and lectures, including a TED Talk that began as a TedX talk before joining the TED site for a few years. Dr. Rankin has written over 12 books and over 150 papers and articles. She writes an ongoing column for Psychology Today. Dr. Rankin's many media appearances include NBC News, the Oprah Magazine, National Public Radio, Newsweek, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, US News, and World Report. Also, congregational testimonies to inform legislature. She's an active member of Mensa and serves on multiple advisory boards. Dr. Rankin's many honors include winning Teacher of the Year and being honored multiple times by the US White House. For example, the American flag was once flown over the White House Capitol building in honor of Dr. Rankin's dedication to students. Now, our second keynote speaker is Temitope Isedowu. He's the Director of Programs at AfriLabs, also a member of EdTech organization. Now, Temitope is in charge of designing and leading the AfriLabs team to implement projects and programs internally and with partners. He has a strong background in technology, entrepreneurship, and project management. Temitope is an alumnus of entrepreneurship and leadership programs at Stanford University, University of Pittsburgh, and Instituto Tecnológico Buenos Aires. He's the leadership fellow of Frankie's Hesselbein Institute, a 2018 Obama's Leaders Africa Fellow, and have served as advisory panel member, Queen's Young Leaders Program. He was the lead of developer of Asejere and the winner of Nigerian American Partnership Award. So Image Africa, our sponsors and our partners. This event, Image Africa, our sole sponsor, our major sponsor, River State University. Then we also thank Advancement and Linkages Center, River State University, for providing us with the platform and also housing us at River State University. Then also Megi. Megi is a technological software company located in Port Harcourt, East West Road. They do software development. They do mobile app building and lots of stuff. So we once again, on behalf of Accelerate Hub, thank our sponsors and our partners, River State University, Advancement and Linkages Center, and Megi. So this event is being streamed live on YouTube. All right, so now for our first speaker, I'll be letting our first speaker, Dr. Jenny, to take over from here. All right, thank you once again. Over to you, Dr. Jenny.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Yes, you can.
There we go. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, one thing I was going to ask about is I use the comments field a lot. Is there a way the settings can be shared so that others can see others' comments? If not, I don't have to use it.
Okay, definitely we can use the general group messaging platform, the chat.
The chat, perfect.
Okay.
Because I know that the settings can control whether they have the option to share with everyone, and I'd love for them to be able to share for everyone, if that's okay with you. If not, I can work around it. I'm very flexible.
I'm okay.
Okay, excellent. And do you want me to just thumb through a few of the slides just so that we have a feel for everything working?
Okay.
Because it'll be at 5 o'clock that I'll actually begin, correct?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So just thumbing through some of the slides and so on. It looks like everything is everyone seeing everything okay?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I think we're in good shape then. Okay, well, thank you all so much for being here today. We're going to be talking about mastering
20 minutes, 25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay? Okay. We're going to be talking about mastering technology as a tool for communication. So often we teach students how to use technology to program and build things, and that's so important. But it's also important that they realize it can be leveraged to share their voice with the world in a way that can bring them funding, collaborators, attention to their projects, all sorts of things. And so that's what we'll be talking about today is using technology to share that voice. I have a handout that's 12 pages. It's really extensive and it's loaded with information. And I put this link in the chat box so that everybody can access it there, or you can write it down. I'll show it again at the very end. It's basically just on my website and you can navigate to it by finding this presentation. Because what I'd like to talk about is using technology to share your voice. And of course, the importance of students, of children, learning that this is such an important function of technology. You might recognize this young lady right here, and you can put in the chat box if you know who this is. It's Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan. And many people remember her as the young lady who at the age of 15 was shot in the face by the Taliban for trying to attend school. But really, Malala was an activist long before that, and she knew exactly what voice she wanted to share. And it was about the importance of all children, particularly girls, because they were the most excluded, having the right to an education. And Malala was already blogging for the BBC at age 11, at just 11 years old, because she knew that she could use technology to share her voice with the world, and not just her community, but the BBC that was from a completely different country. She could use that to share her activism. So you want to think about what your voice is and what you want to share with the world. Now, I want to talk a bit about social media. Online, anytime you have a web page or a profile page for a particular organization's website or any social media site, it's another way that people who are outside of your immediate circle can find you and can learn what you're all about and reach out to you. And that includes the media and reporters. So each new account means you're putting down another lifeline. If you were to match these, and these are social media tools that are commonly used around the world. In parts of Asia, particularly China, WeChat is like an equivalent to Facebook, and Weibo is like Twitter. But if you were going to match them up with the statements on the right, the fastest growing in all age categories is Instagram. So it's important not just that you use it for personal use and for fun and funny cat videos and that sort of thing, but you start to establish a professional presence on Instagram, and you build that so that over time, by the time you're up and running with whatever your career is going to be or whatever a student's career is going to be, he or she can gain exposure for that work. The strongest professional association is LinkedIn. All you have to do is just put up some CV details, and it's important that children are groomed early to have a professional presence online. Used the most worldwide is Facebook, so that's important for professional presence as well. And Twitter, instead of just using it for fun, it's used the most by journalists and researchers. So it's really important to have a professional presence on Twitter to further your career and leverage technology. I like to share scrappy tips, just some fun things that you can do. One, there's some programs I mentioned in the handout that you can use to schedule social media posts ahead of time, or to just write one social media post and have it go out to all of your different social media accounts. So let's say a reporter uses a quote from you in a story, whether you are a young student or you are a professional adult. That's something that you can share very quickly with one of those tools in all your social media accounts to further that professional presence online. Also, social media often contains analytics, so you can see which of your posts are most popular and getting the most activity, and that can shape your future posts. Another trick I like to recommend in Twitter is you can see what lists other users all around the world have put you on. And if you look at the lists they've put you on, like here's just a piece of mine, you can get a sense of what brand you are portraying through your social media. And then you can see if it really seems very professional or if it really gets across the particular field that you're all about. And it's a good way, even for students or teens, to get a sense of the image they're putting out into the world with technology. There are so many opportunities out there through technology to share your voice with the world. One, you can get reporters to come to you by simply putting your name and your areas of interest and your areas of work in databases. And it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes to put your information into one of these databases. And then journalists from the world's top publications, when they're doing a story that touches on your area of interest, your area where you have something to say, they will seek you out and they will email you and call you and get quotes from you in their stories. And it's an excellent way to further your career no matter what work you're doing. And students should know that even at a young age, they have this power to share their voice and contribute. You can also receive reporter queries, which are emails reporters send out when they need an expert or just any individual, even a kid, to cite for a story. And again, all the ways to do this are in that handout that I've provided. You can also use hashtags. Particular fields even have certain hashtags you'll want to learn. For example, the education field, if you have a new article out or you're cited in something and you share it in social media with this hashtag, TellEWA, that tells the Educational Writers Association about your story, and they then can choose it as their story of the week to share it with thousands of journalists that write about education. And that's just by adding that one hashtag, you've got that chance to share your voice across the world. I also have a bookmark here for a link on Twitter where journalists share queries they want experts to cite in their work. There's also a speakers database. If you like public speaking, just like they have those journalist database, there are ones for public speakers so that event organizers invite you to be on their panels or contribute in their online conferences. And there's a way to get to some spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets I have for you. They're all free. And I've listed 2,000 opportunities of different ways you can share your voice with the world. You can also author a book with just one chapter. There are lots of books where each chapter is written by a different author. And I have a link in here where you can go online and apply to contribute one of those chapters. And then suddenly you are a book author and you can have, like on Amazon.com, you can have an author profile and that sort of thing. It's great for exposure. You can also present online. Nowadays, we use Zoom for so much, but many of these even have you load your slides and the audience doesn't see you. So you can be in your pajamas and looking at your notes, and it's really easy to present online. I hope you've all heard of TED Talks. Please put in the comment fields if you're familiar with TED Talks. TED Talks are worldwide, and they will open so many doors for you if you give a TED Talk. And even children can give TED Talks. There are lots of ways kids can get involved in TED programs and TED speaking. And I have in the packet how you can give a TED Talk. And that all starts with getting some online files of your speaking experience. Also, if you write a paper, you can house that online. That's another way to get exposure for your ideas. And so those are just 10, a sampling of just 10 opportunities where you can use technology to share your voice with the world. But then, of course, I'm going to skip to a couple things. One, you can also go online and look at the CV of your mentor or of someone you admire and see what those early accomplishments are. And that's a great way to get ideas for how to push into new areas in whatever your passion is. These are just those lists I have online that you can sort different ways and look at different opportunities. I do want to talk about design, because when we share our voice with the world, whether we're using technology to put together slides, or we're creating handouts or a website, whatever it is we're creating, design is so important to whether or not people pay attention to our designs. And students, young kids should even learn this early, the importance of design. Too often, we see professionals sharing their ideas in ways like this, which looks horrible, absolutely horrible. And when there's a lot of verbiage on a page or a lot of jargon, whether it's technology jargon or field jargon, people just turn off and they don't want to look at it. But visual images have so much more power. You can still direct someone to all the details through a link, through a handout, but they don't need to see all of this in a slide or on a home page, right? For example, I often present on how to design data system interfaces. And instead of putting all of that verbiage on a slide, I just drew on an apple, took a bite, and I talk about digesting all that information in a data system. And it makes what I'm saying a lot more memorable if I have an image. Also, you want to show diversity and avoid stereotypes. We want to show all of the positive sides of our world in our slides, in our websites, in our programs, anything we're building. Also, too often when we see the sharing of information with technology, we see these bullet points or just these little snippets of text, and the human brain spends more time forgetting information than remembering information, because there's just so much in our world to take in that we have to exclude a lot of things from our memory. And so when the brain sees something presented in a way that's very average and doesn't stand out in any special way, it makes the information more forgettable. So it makes the viewer more likely to forget what you're trying to share. For example, this is a quote by Shirley Chisholm. Here in the US, she's a very inspiring figure. She was the first Black woman to ever be elected to the United States Congress. And she shared this quote about if you're not invited to this place of power, this place to contribute, then just find a way in without that invitation. Bring your folding chair, get in there. But if I share the information like this, it's very forgettable. Even if I add an image, too often we see images added like this. And again, nothing really stands out about this. But watch when I simply change the design of my slide. All I did was change the design. And suddenly you can see the look in Chisholm's eyes. You can see her leaning forward, ready to contribute, ready to change the world, ready to make a difference. Just by changing the design, the information becomes much less forgettable. So anything you're designing, whether it's a program or a website or even if your students are just handing in a project, teach them the importance of design. And that brings me to data visualization. Worldwide, every field is using data these days. We're using it to inform our decisions. And data is shared rampantly, but it's often shared poorly. So we're going to play a little game for a moment. I have a graph up here that's really horribly put together. And this graph is showing results from a survey question where students answered whether or not they felt like their teachers cared about them. And each bar is the results of a different teacher's classroom. And it's shared horribly, and there are 10 big problems with it. And I'd like you to use the chat field for a minute. I'm going to set a timer. And could you please put in there any problem you see with this graph? And that's going to help us learn about how to do a bad graph. So let's go. I've started the timer. Please add in the chat field right over in the chat field. What's wrong with this graph? What is wrong with the way the data is displayed? Because it's breaking a lot of good design, good data design, data visualization rules. So what's wrong with the design? What is wrong with the design? So I'm going to just add one. Oops. Let me share with everyone. What is wrong with the design there? So I'll give you just one, for example. There's a lot of clutter. So I would just add clutter. So 10 more seconds, think, what is wrong with this design? Okay, and our time is up. I'm going to improve it for you. Okay, so I'll take away that timer, and gradually we'll go through the problems with it together so that when you use technology to display data, or when even students do it, they're learning how to do it correctly. One, anytime you make something three-dimensional, it's easier to make mistakes when it's actually two-dimensional information. So let's make that 2D. Another problem is that we have this image up in the corner of this teacher, but it doesn't really add anything. In an infographic, or if you use images to help people find information they're looking for, images can have value, or if it's to make something more memorable. But here it's clutter, so let's just take that away. Another problem is that we don't have a title at the top, and down below, we don't really know what that information means. So let's add a meaningful title. This graph is students who believe their teacher cares about them. Another problem is anytime you add a key or a legend to a graph and you ask people to look away from the data display to get information and come back, you're opening up the door for possible error. So let's just put the labels right there on the graph. Also, we're using the whole slide there, and we're not giving people a little space to breathe. So we're going to just minimize that a little bit. Also, I have school average on the side, which is different than the teacher's information. We really want this information here to compare the other bars. So let's move that to a line across the graph. Another problem is the colors don't mean anything. It'd be one thing, some colorblind people can't see all color, but at least for those who can see color, let's say green is good and red is bad. Let's give it meaning. Also, the scale here starts at 20. It ought to start at 0. And we have too many decimal points, which adds clutter. So let's minimize that. Another problem is that we only have the values on the side and not on the bars themselves. Also, the gray and the lines, it just adds clutter. We'll take that away. And finally, more details. How do we know this information about the students? Let's add a footer. This data is telling us specifically students who answered yes to a particular question. When we give all of those details and we take away all that clutter and those mistakes, we have a much better graph. And so when we teach others to display data and when we display data, it's so vital that we follow proper data visualization with our technology. Finally, I do have some extra scrappy tips, I like to call them, when it comes to using technology. One, whether we are sharing a blog post or a description of our company or our organization, whatever it is we're sharing, we should know the power of story. When we share very dry information, people use the cerebral cortex. It's a part of their brain that's wonderful for reasoning and problem solving, but it's very non-emotional. And when people are looking at dry information, they tend to forget and not care about what they're reading or seeing or hearing. But if we can incorporate story, we make the information memorable and we make people care about it. And stories can be squeezed into the smallest area. For example, this was a tweet. Oh no, I'm sorry. This was the title of a story, an NPR story, a title. And the title of the story was Dolly Parton. She's a country music singer. Dolly Parton gives the gift of literacy, a library of 100 million books. Okay, that's a major thing that this singer shared 100 million free books with kids. That's a big thing, and it's a big statistic, but it's not a story, and people will tend to forget it. But look at what a tweet did. Just a little tweet, a little post on social media, so small in text, was able to take this story, or take this topic, and turn it into a story in a very small amount of space. And this one says, Dolly Parton's father never learned to read. She started her nonprofit, Imagination Library, to give children what he didn't have: early access to books. In this small amount of space, which you can squeeze into technology, no matter if it's the homepage on an interface, if it's a web page, if it's a blog, whatever it is that you're doing with technology, if you squeeze in a story to help people connect to what you're saying, you'll make what you're saying so much more inspiring and memorable. Another scrappy tip, and I have the details in the handout, is you can, for free, it doesn't cost any money, I share 2 different programs out there, TalkWalker Alerts and Google Alerts, where you can enter your name or any other information about you. Maybe it's a name of a book you wrote, or maybe it's a name of an organization that you founded. You can enter that information, and then anytime that name or that phrase appears anywhere online, you'll get an email alerting you to it. Now, this is fabulous because it helps you connect with people who are talking about you. You might be doing something incredible in the world, but and you don't really know, do people know about it? Are they using it in their discussions? But with these tools, you can know about it. And you can even teach students to do this, so that if they do, let's say they win an award at a science fair, well, how great for them to know which newspapers wrote about them, which news broadcasts, which radio shows. And you as professionals can do this as well. And then you can connect with those people who are talking about you. You can give them more information. You can connect them with other resources. So that's one of my scrappy tips for technology. And finally, I do want to bring you to that handout and just let you know all of the stuff that's in there. I've pulled the information from two of my books in particular, but I've got a lesson on branding, and it's so important that we're regularly teaching students in education to know about their professional presence, that even though they use things like social media and technology for fun, they should also know that they're putting an image out into the world, and what image do they want to put out there. And I would love to know, about yours as well, and you can always share that in chat. But there's so many good things in those presentation notes, but that does bring me to the end. If we have time for questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I do want to say thank you so much for having me. I love Africa. I've spent quite a bit of time there, in Rwanda, Uganda, Tunisia, Egypt, and quite a bit of time in the DRC, in the Congo. I worked with teachers and students there. And my boyfriend was born in Ghana, and he grew up in Nigeria, in Ghana, and then lived in South Africa in the end, before coming to the States. So it's quite an honor to be here, and I'm very impressed by everything that you're doing. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. And for the question section, we're going to have it after Mr. Temitope is done with his own session. So if you have any questions to ask, let's just skip it, or you can write it down, or you can put it in the chat box. Then after the end of Temitope's session, then we'll have the questions and answers just for about 5 minutes. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Chenny. I want to hand it over to Mr. Temitope.
Yeah, yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. Please, can you hear me very clearly?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm not going to be making a presentation because this invitation came somehow relatively late for me. And the past week, this week, we had an annual gathering, at afterwards, and it's it's a very busy event. We had 3 days of activities and all that. So it has quite been a busy week. But I came here looking forward to sharing my experience with you on what it actually feels like. Being a student in the Nigerian university and having to apply technology to your entire existence, your entire value chain as a student. So thank you to Dr. Jenny for her presentation. I enjoyed it myself. Yeah, I listened throughout and it was thank you so much. Now, I'm just going to ask you directly can you please give me an idea of the people in the audience? What are they composed of? Are they students? Are they graduates? Like if they're students, are they developers? What do they do generally? Yeah.
You like me to answer? Or everyone in chat?
Hello?
Hello, sorry, my screen froze. Were you asking me a question? My screen froze.
No, I was asking, I was directing the question to the organizer.
Because we're also streaming live. The audience, we have developers, we have techies, we also have non-techies, and because we'll be streaming live, this event will definitely going to be shared to different platforms. So we are looking at the students. We have students, we also have non-students, and we also have graduates and techies also.
Okay, thank you very much. Initially, when I saw the introduction, the email you sent to me as an invitation, I didn't go through it in detail. I first thought you were talking about the role of technology in education, generally, not with specifics to how applicable it is to, tertiary institutions and all. For me, I'm somebody that I can call myself an education technology expert. I work in education technology across the continent. In fact, currently I am co-leading a research project on education technology in northern Uganda. I'm doing that virtually. So we have a team on ground over there that are putting in the legwork. So we work with technology from the very early stage because our focus currently is on primary education, in northern Uganda. The students in primary 1 and 2, how they can learn during COVID. Yeah, and using radio, because radio is it's everywhere. In every house you have the radio, but there's a limit to how interactive it is. There's a limit to its usefulness. Right? So we are trying to perform an experiment to determine how useful it is for that category of learner. Now, for you as a tertiary education student, you are most probably more sophisticated than just radio and all that. you are not, you have your smartphones, you know, you have your laptops, you have all that. And if there's any category of learners that are familiar with technology, it has to be you, even more than your parents and all, yeah. So what I'm thinking right now is if this audience has students and developers, I would like to ask anybody to volunteer to tell me, for example, how do you currently use technology in your learning? Any volunteers over there? How do you use technology? Like, just give me an example. How do you use technology to learn something, you know, in your education, in your...
Okay, let me share my
Hello.
experience. Basically, because a trained student. Hello.
Your voice is breaking.
Hello. Okay. Basically, I'm a 300 level student, mathematics, River State University. Applying technology to it. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, so if anybody is not speaking, please mute your, if you can mute your mic.
Please. Why is that?
Somebody was talking. Can you say what you were saying? I missed that.
I'm the one talking. So basically, being a 300 level student at River State University studying mathematics is kind of awesome. Basically, what made me to apply to the courses because I wanted a bigger understanding, a more broad understanding to numbers and to be able to think logically and to apply them to my life and experiences. Now, education, technology in our institution here in Nigeria per se, it's not really what we hoped. It's not really what we hoped it to be because at first, most persons would that are freakish about technology would want to study computer science or any computer related course because of the trend, because of the need, because of the way or the place we are going to. But having or studying these courses in a Nigerian university, it's almost as good as it's not really a good experience for us because basically one, we have the technologies, we have the equipment per se, but they are not really using it. Now, in some schools, it's so appalling that even in some universities, they still write codes on paper in Nigeria, which is way back. Like, just imagine somebody learning how to write a code, learn how to use Python, how to use it as a computer science student, as a mathematician, any course, learning how to write code or learning any programming language on a piece of paper. How can he or she debug his code? How can he or she practice well? So the educational system in terms of technology generally in this atmosphere isn't really cool. Thank God for communities and thank God for other communities around. So that's just generally my experience in technology and education in Nigeria, to be precise.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wants to say something?
I would like to say something.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you?
I would like to speak in line with technology and social. Can I go on?
Yeah, go on.
All right. During the lockdown, I've been able to. I'm speaking from the angle of social media now. I've been able to use social media to acquire a lot of knowledge. You know, I've attended so many courses. I've attended so many online seminars, and I've learned quite a lot. So that's one of the things I use technology to do. Basically, I use technology to acquire more knowledge for myself, especially during the lockdown. I've attended so many online webinars, and I've acquired a lot of knowledge, which is really paying me at the moment. They are really paying at the moment. So that is one of the way I use technology.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do we have any lady in the audience who can share their experience? Any lady, any lady. Do we have any lady in the audience who can share their experience with technology in education? Are we all, other than Dr. Jenny, are we all men? Okay, it seems most of us are men. I'm looking at the names. Is there any lady in the audience who wants to share their experience with technology? Okay, so let me just continue. I'd like to say that I disagree with the idea that I was a student a decade ago, right? And I completely disagree with the idea that technology is not playing. It's not playing its role. Like, it's not being used because people are writing codes on paper. I don't agree with that. Right. In 2020, I think a laptop computer is quite not expensive, even if it's a used laptop. I know that you can get a laptop for as cheap as 20,000 naira. Yeah. You can get a laptop for that's like $50 or somewhere, yeah, in Nigeria. And I know that most of the students who say that they do not have a laptop, we have some very big phones, and then we subscribe to expensive internet. We stay on Instagram all day, and all that. I completely disagree with that when we say that. I feel like as students, we need to, we are 18, most of us, we are 18 plus. We are a generation that needs to take responsibility for what we want to become. Not just expect somebody, to have to give us that. I know that as students, we can do some jobs, because I was a student here, to be able to raise that 20,000 within three months. I think there are jobs out there, if it's a priority for us to be able to raise that money. Now, technology is, you can say the role technology plays in your life as a young person is divided into two. I would say the first role is where you are currently as a student. How can you use technology to advance your own course? Number one, you can use technology in your learning. The Nigerian education has a lot of problems. One of them is how old, the education you are receiving, the materials they're giving you are properly prepared in the 1990s. And you are still, your lecturers are still kind of putting it out there and saying you have to learn according to that. But as a student, technology allows you to be able to access the latest content out there. You go on Google, you Google what is it that you are being taught. You have some latest information. You can prepare ahead of the lecturers, of your lectures, so that when your lecturer comes into the class, you can talk about the new things. You learn, engage them in discussions, in productive discussions that affect you. All right. You can use technology to record your classes, even if you are using a feature phone. Feature phones, many of them, they have recording apps, Java, and all that. They have that. I think it's important for you to be able to deploy that, not just to socialize with other people, not just to communicate, but also learn then you use what you have. Now, for people who do not have a laptop, even rather than writing something on paper, you can use your phone. If you can code on your phone, I've coded on my phone in the past. I have some good apps like, that teach coding that helps me to actually, because I'm also a tech person. I'm sure you know that from the introduction of what I do. I'm sure you could see I code myself, so I know what this means, and I have done that a lot, number of times. So technology plays a lot of role. The technology you have right now is your smartphones or your feature phone. You can be able to deploy it in your education, not just to socialize, but for relaxation purposes and all that. Outside of formal education, there's also acquiring of products to the education seriously. Most students all over the world, they have continued to learn, especially in tertiary institutions. They have continued to deploy virtual tools to learn, to keep track of this. So you, as a student, I know that many of you are home right now because of the university strikes and all that. Your education should not stop, right? You can learn something by using what you have, using your phone, using your data connection to learn something while you are home. Don't try and wait for the older generation that we are. Most of Nigerian youths are out in the streets right now. They are protesting the MSAs movement and all that. We are protesting against that older generation. You don't have to wait for them to say they have to come and do something, right? If you look at the news out there, if you look at what is happening, Nigerian youths are among the most brilliant youths in the world. When they go to other countries, you see them making advancements. You see them making breakthrough, acquiring the highest level of education and career and all that. So you definitely don't have to wait for anybody to bring that to you. So I don't subscribe to that. That you don't have, you can, if you believe technology is going to help you, then you can do your best to actually find that technology and use it. Now for example, if you stay in some of the cities with the help of Facebook and Google, there are a lot of Wi-Fi free zones where you can just take even your phone or whatever type of laptop you have. You can take it there, use free Wi-Fi. You have to be. I'm director of programs at Afrilabs, which is the largest network of technology hubs in Africa. In all these hubs, Accelerate Hub is also one in New York, right? So many of these hubs, they have Wi-Fi's, they allow you to connect, some of them for free for a certain period of time. And that's where you can actually connect and learn stuff and all that. So if you actually believe technology is what it is, then you need to actually take the lead in using it. Now, when you leave school, when you're out of school, you need to actually right now start planning. What do you want to do? How will technology help you in building your career? Do you want to build a career in technology? You have to start now, right? If it is coding that you want to do, you have to start. If it is web development, because there's a difference between just CMS web development and programming itself, whichever part. If you want to do front end, if you want to go with back end and all that. It's not just about using technology now. It's about acquiring the right skills to become somebody who builds technology itself. So it's not just about, from beginning I started with where you are right now and how you can use technology to acquire education. And now I'm talking about how you can become somebody that deploys technology to build your career after school, right? So there are a lot of digital skills out there. There's LinkedIn Learning, there's Coursera, there's even Google, there's Andela Learning Community. Even Google, there's different Google groups, developer groups, there's Facebook, developer circles. These are developer groups that I've worked with. Regarding hardware, the federal government of Nigeria, they have a technology incubation center. They have it in different states. I was in an interview with the Daman government yesterday, and we spoke about how they can actually support digitization in Nigeria. And what came to the fore is that how they are not just looking at software, how they can help you to deploy software. We're also looking at how they can help you to make hardware solutions. Yeah. So I know that what's easier for you is to just code, learn how to code, learn digital marketing, all these digital skills. But also there's something, technology doesn't really stop there. Fabrication is technology, building your own, maybe your own fan, for example, is technology, building your own laptop is technology, right? Building your own, what do you have? What do you use in your house right now? And all that. It's also technology, hardware technology. So you have to decide what you want to use technology for after you leave school. And for me, my encounter with technology started when I wanted to build a website, and somebody referred me to somebody when I was a student. Yeah. I was referred to a coder in school. I spoke to him and he told me, he gave me a quote that was actually above the budget I could afford. So I just went out there, right? I Googled stuff. Even as a decade ago, right? There was also YouTube. So if I could use YouTube 10 years ago to learn how to code and how to develop, don't tell me you can't use it in 2020. There's more information. There's so many things out there. You can't even download now. You can download a lot of information and all that. So I have since built my own career in technology. Right now, I'm involved in so much technology projects across different groups of people and all that. I would say that, and I didn't have rich parents to help me with that. I just had the will, the passion to do that. Right. So I will encourage you to also, beyond using it to learn how, to also be prepared, because the future we have is a very technology-heavy future, right? Technology is getting involved in almost everything. So you have to decide now what you want to use, how you can use that technology to better yourself. And if you're in the audience, after this session, my email, you can request for my email from the organizers. And if you have questions, if you have specialized advice you need from me, I'm going to be happy to offer it to you. I think I've already, time is already up. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Temitope. Somebody have a question. Okay, he said, okay. Hi, guys. I'm a petrochemical engineering student at River State University who is into extended reality, VR, AR, MR, and artificial intelligence. Computer vision as my main focus, and I'm currently utilizing power and technology. Okay, my field of studies, outside my field of study. Okay, that's not really a question. So I have a question for you, Mr. Temitope. Now, my question is this: how can we incorporate technology? Talking about AR, VR, and mixed reality. Now, from your experience as the design lead in Free Labs, now how can we incorporate technology that is not being used in a school? Like, what's the easiest means to incorporate it without? What's the easiest means of incorporating these technologies in the school, especially in the terms of AR, VR?
Okay, my easy answer to your question would be you buy one. I know that Oculus, the Oculus gear sold for like, you retail for $100. So that's like 40,000 Nigerian naira. Right? If you are really interested in it, you could join Facebook developer cycles, where you get to meet with people who most probably have this. They can be able to share it with you. They can invite you over to use it, and as you save up your own money, you can be able to get that. But I don't think our university system is designed to give you that. Yeah, so of course there are different. I don't know, as a developer, you probably know that mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, they have some basic differences, right? And Facebook, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they have their own different versions of this and other. So you might also want to explore, learn more what they are all about. Right? There are basic differences. You could also learn here. But I think the easiest answer would be get one. Yeah? If not brand one, I'm thinking you get an Amazon because I use Amazon and I'm living in Nigeria. So even from the university, from Port Harcourt, you can be able to access Amazon and other stuff on Amazon. Right? They say if they deliver to Nigeria, they're always right. They deliver to Nigeria. You can find used ones. It could be cheaper than $100. Somebody wanted to give it away. Or there's something I did when I was in school. That was 10 years ago. I keep saying it so that you can emphasize the time. If I could do it then, you have to do it now. At that time, digital skills everybody was talking about it. Right? So what I did was I started a foundation. Instead of everybody that joined, instead of individually going to acquire a certain training. So we tend to contribute small money. We put the money together and we invite the trainers all together. So we ended up acquiring that for cheap. So you could team up with everybody on this call, just contribute small money. Maybe start by acquiring one Oculus for $100 or so. I think that it will be cheaper that way. Then you have it at your home and people can come there, test and use it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I have a question for Dr. Jenny. Being in the US in the education sector, and what are the challenges in knowing quite well that the technology in the US way much advanced, if not the most advanced in terms of education. So what are the challenges, or what do you think we in Africa can innovate on, or we in Africa can implement to make our to make technology easier in Africa?
So often I think it can be finding a particular sector that that you can excel at and really focusing on that area, because then you become known as the experts for that, instead of trying to teach, for example, teach students a little of this, a little of this, a little of this, really get good, get good at focusing on one area in particular, so that you can become the go-to world leaders in that particular area. Because lots of times I know, like, we outsource, we had a data systems company here in the US, and outsourced to the Philippines because they were doing incredible things with coding. And so many here in the US outsource work for US companies out to the Philippines, not just because of cost, but because they're known for being so good at that. So one is to choose an area of focus. Once you start to see one develop, that's, obviously you're good in so many different areas, but if you really start to find, hey, this is something that we can be known for, that's one thing. Another is to be sure, so often we do incredible things in a country and other countries don't necessarily know about it, or so I think anytime you can be sharing, using technology to bring awareness to what you're doing, like giving a TED Talk, they have TED Talks. One of the, the T in TED actually stands for technology. And if you are giving TED Talks showing these incredible things that you're doing, that helps advance that. Here in the US, I would say our biggest problem when it comes to technology in schools is that we have a massive equity issue, because in the US, the way that schools are funded, it's quite horrible, to be honest. It has to do with taxes, housing taxes in the community. So what that means is, in communities where the people are most poor, the schools have the least money for technology, for laptops for the kids and smart boards in the rooms and all of those sorts of things. So we end up with this massive equity issue where kids who come from families that already have, chances for success in the world are getting yet another step up that's so unfair. So in Africa, anything you can do to avoid that big mistake that the US is doing and have opportunities for technology available equally to all kids, because great minds are in every area of society. Some of the poorest kids are some of the smartest kids and are capable of doing incredible things with technology if they have access. So if opportunities can be made available to everyone, and however that can happen, then you'll be able to really pull out those kids that you can catch kids who otherwise might access to a laptop to even learn that he or she could do phenomenal things with technology. So anything you can do, I'd say with access, to be sure that every kid has a chance at using technology. And even if that's just an initial, all kids have a chance, and then those who are really advancing with it get that extra time with it. And then two, the value of being known for a particular sector of the industry is a powerful game piece worldwide, because it expands not just your work within your country, but your work globally, which can bring in lots of income to different countries. So those would be the two things that I would recommend. And the answer to our biggest challenge in the US, it's an equity issue. And sadly, many educators would not even answer that way because their minds are not focused on equity. Their minds are more focused on, well, how are we doing globally, and not, well, what's the life of every kid like? And then as adults, what's the life of every adult going to be like? How can we make our world more equitable? And technology is such an important access point, for people from any sector of life to get an incredible career and share incredible things with the world and really be a change maker.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Finally, Mr. Temi Tokwe, any final words before we wrap it up? Hello, Mr. Temi, are you there?
I think I've spoken everything that for now that I have to say. So thank you very much for inviting me today.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny, Mr. Temi, and everybody here. Mr. Gordon Jimmy, are you there? I don't know if you have anything to say. Mr. Gordon.
Hello, Louis. Yes,
yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
No. It was a wonderful session. I don't have anything from my end. I'm still trying to digest all that has been said.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So we bring this event to a close. The links will be shared to our social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Twitter, especially on Twitter. So let me just share the link to the screen on the screen. All right. So the website for Accelerate Hub, it's www.acceleratehubng.com. Then the mail to get in touch with us, hello@acceleratehubng.com. The Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn profile is just at Accelerate Hub NG. So I thank you very much, Mr. Temitope. I thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you for accepting to speak on our event. Thank you very much, the guests and everybody here. Also, we'll try as much as possible to implement what you've said, Dr. Jenny, and also Mr. Temi. Thank you very much, everybody. So I would end the session now. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. All right, take care. Good morning and good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, bye. Bye. Thank you.